let me show you how I spent 100 hours and over $4,000 or £3,500 building this project. So sit back and relax and be amazed. Alright, after this sci-fi style introduction, welcome back on the channel, and let me show you one of my greatest projects I have ever built in my life using over 100 working hours. In this video I will cover all my hints and tips, and also to explain why and how I end up spending so much money and time on this single project. So we have to do a little bit of a time travel and going back in the past a good 3 months when I started building this project. Started with cutting up all the segments, which will include over 700 different segments, and when the full piece is glued together it will contain over 64 different layers. Once you have a nice accurate segments cut and it forms a perfect 360 degrees, then you don't need too much clamping force, so these rubber bands are more than enough to hold the piece together and provide a nice tight bond. So this was a rather tedious task to create 32 rings, and then I just had to do a little bit of a sanding. I could have used my drum sander, which probably would have been quicker. However, due to the design of a drum sander, feeding through a small piece like this ring, it wouldn't really work. It would need another secondary board and probably glue it with hot glue or using a double-sided tape, so I decided not to send it through my drum sander, but instead to do the sanding on my lathe. Then I just built a little jig which gives me the right angle. Once I did the calculation, once you glue together 64 different segmented piece, what angle you need exactly to form a 360 circle, and then once they were cut to the right angle and size, I just did a very gentle sanding, so I didn't want to change the overall angle for each piece. I just wanted to remove all the marks left after the saw blade. For a nice tight joint, I'm using my stapler, and this worked really well to hold the glue up together, and also, as you can see, the little pins orientated in the inside of the ring, so when I do my carving at the end, I won't be going into so deep into the wood to potentially hit any nails. And the initial plan was to make a torus, and this is why I have first half of the ring is already glued, and I thought I would do some experiments gluing up the first half and I will film the second. But this is when I realized once everything is glued together, this piece will not fit on my lathe, which is a problem. So plan B came into place. And if you don't know what torus is, here you are. This has been done in a wood turning format by a number of different makers. One of my ultimate favorite is Wood by Todd. He makes incredible toruses, and this is where the inspiration really came from. And this technique worked really well for this application. As you can see, I'm using super glue and normal wood glue as well, and in this case the super glue will instantly dry and provide the clamping force to make sure that we have a nice bond between the two layers. So I wasn't exactly sure what shape I want to achieve, so I did a few test runs. I used some double-sided tape so I can kind of secure the pieces and give me an idea how this piece could look like. Once I was happy, I went ahead and glued on the remaining segments. And this is what also really delayed the whole process, because I had to go back to the drawing board to come up with a plan B. And here we are. You can enjoy a couple of seconds of wood turning, and after we are back to doing some woodworking, because unfortunately we didn't get the chance to do too much wood turning in this video. And the reason I went with this spalted beech for finishing this project at the top, because at the end when I will apply the oil for this project, I know sapele tend to turn very dark brown color, and I wanted to give a little bit of a contrast rather than just the sapele to dominate in the entire project. And also this spalted wood just looks incredible. Look at that. So this project took so long for a number of different reasons. The timber itself was just a rough sawn timber, so I had to put through on my planer thickness before I even start cutting all the segments, and then once it was done, cutting all the little pieces, then gluing them together to form into one ring, and then cut the rings, sand the rings. It was super time consuming. So while we are waiting for the glue to dry, I'm gonna crack on and gluing up some more sapele pieces, and this will form the base or the stand for this creation. And just look at that, as I put the pressure on with the clamps, you can see nice and even glue squeeze out. That means we have two flat surfaces meeting to form one strong joint. And here we are, our piece, which is ready to be carved using my angle grinder and the Cuttle carbide disc. And even before I started to do all the glue ups for this project, I had to do so much research and watch so many different wood turning toruses just to get the idea how exactly to cut the piece, glue the piece, to make sure that I won't fail this project. But I also wanted to make as big as possibly I can and fit on a lathe, and unfortunately due to a little bit of a miscalculation, obviously that couldn't really happen. So then going back to the drawing board, just further extended the length of this project and coming up with a different shape, and then obviously all this carving, and then I will do a little bit more carving. That's just further extended the project, giving roughly 100 working hours to finish this incredible art. And for the price, why is it cost so much? Obviously that because of my intensive labor requirements to complete this project. And since this is my full-time job, obviously I have a lot more overheads to take care of compared to when this was just a hobby. So when I did all the calculation for the price, considering the amount of hours I spent and the materials, it came to a big number. And I have done similar carvings before, but as I was doing on this piece, for some reason it really didn't come together to look nice. So then I went back to where I started from, and I started to make it a little bit different pattern, and that definitely worked out a lot better. It was more pleasing to my eyes at least. So then I carried on doing the rest of the piece. This carbide disc is rather aggressive, it's a medium to coarse grit, so I'm doing very light passes, so I don't want the carbide disc to eat into the wood too much, also not to burn the piece, especially when I'm working on the spalted beech, which is considerably a softer wood than sapele. It needs even less effort to really dig into the wood. And these are the finishing touches, the last few passes before this piece is completely carved. So then we can move on and start working on our base. All I do here is marking out the length and the height of the stand before I will transfer this over to my CNC machine and start cutting some wood. So the CNC is a brilliant piece of machinery, but obviously you have to learn to use it and mainly to program whatever you want to cut out. And this is what I'm trying to do as well. So I decided I'm gonna keep it rather simple and just make a nice oval shape, and this machine will be very useful to get a very nice and accurate oval. Obviously I can cut this on my bend saw or using different templates, but I also really trying to kind of utilize this CNC into my woodworking and my wood turning journey, and also it's just fun to use. So I do have a dash shoe for this CNC which helps suck all this wood shavings, but just for the purpose of the video I removed so you can see how it cuts the wood. So I didn't cut all the way through to the bottom. I'm just gonna take this over to my bend saw. I will trim the excess materials. Now where the CNC carved at the top, that will be our reference point, so that has the right shape. And then going over to my router table, obviously using this trimming bit, it will use the top as the reference, and it cuts nice and flush the bottom. Brilliant piece. Once the stand all trimmed up, I will just swap the bits to a round over one, and you will see this creates a very nice curvy edge on the top of the stand. So this project actually does not have a name, so this is where I would love your support. Let me know once you see the finished article what comes into your mind when you look at this piece. I would really like to find a nice artistic name to it, so please shout out down below in the comment section. I would love to hear what you think. It took a long time to figure out exactly what stand and how I will connect the piece with the stands, and the conclusion I came, I want this piece to look like is elevating. So I will be using some brush rods. I will drill some holes into the stand, glue the brush rods into the stand, and then I will try to drill 2 equal size, equal distance hole into the piece, and hopefully it will sit nicely. But due to the curved shape of the creation, obviously that wouldn't be just a simple straightforward drilling. So what I'm doing here, I will take the exact measurements and doing a bit of humor here. So I took the measurement where the exact position of the holes on the stand. Then I transferred the same measurement over to a piece of scrap wood. Marked out the center points both on the templates and on a piece of scrap wood. It is kind of hard to see, but the markings on the scrap wood and on the templates all lines up beautifully, and then I was able to start doing some drilling. Then transferred the curve of the piece onto the scrap wood. Then I went over to my bend saw to cut this out. And these holes are the exact size and distance what we need to drill into the bottom of this piece. Then I just used some hot glue to secure the piece, and really my expectation here was to get the right alignments. So mainly vertically the piece is completely straight and there is no any misalignments. So this is why I use the scrap wood, and obviously it gives me the right distance for the hole and the right position of the holes as well. So it was really beneficial to using that little template. Used some 5 minutes epoxy resin, worked really well. Also used a little bit of clamping because the piece, the brass pieces seemed to kind of popping up as I was pushing them down. So I used a bit of a clamping to keep them down, and just taking some measurements how far I need to drill into our template. And as I already have the holes in the template, it also gives me the right angle in terms of keeping the drill straight, which is just very handy. And it felt it went so quick. Drilling the hole literally took probably 15 seconds, and obviously the whole procedure of getting this to this position took a lot longer. But as you can see, when I do the dry fit, it just came out perfect, which I couldn't really believe for the first time. It came out so good. I didn't push down all the way just because this is a dry fit, but I could see once it is ready to be glued, it will fit nicely. And again, I'm using my 5 minutes epoxy resin. And just a little gentle tap using a scrap wood so we don't damage the actual stand. And that just worked beautifully again. And oh yeah, I was waiting for this part. I don't think this piece will make it to my website, or even if it does, it will probably just say open for offers, because I'm very aware there's a very small minority who's willing to pay as much as I think this piece is worth, at least to me. But let me know if you have any offers. I'm more than happy to hear. I'm trying to get this into some sort of art galleries. Hopefully I will be able to get this into display. But if you have any other suggestion, please don't hold back, let me know. Hope you enjoyed this week's project video. Thanks for watching and see you next week.